Freestyle the news. Cha-cha, hey. I control the weather, tell Marjorie it'll rain again. Bomb the fucking office, you got the sequel, but fuck the fans. All this escalation, I'm marching missiles up from Iran. Go on, get him cancels, I hated Diddy since Make the Band. Everybody striking October, fucking surprises. Like every headline device is gonna change the fucking election. To pose the war with the pressure, I get why it's extra. The more salacious you make it, the more they let it develop. So tell me, who you debating? That content really gonna change your mind? Andrew Tate, butt boys, brother, I'd rather save the time. Legacy admissions on grifters who fucking make the live and use the genocide just to drink the likes through their favorite style. Hold up, wait a minute. Hey, what's the quickest way to fuck up like 100 million? Francis, it ain't your producers fucking up the film. And what the fuck you doing, Phillips? Died, you live long enough in your chair to become the villain. Lisa got the hope, but the robot wild in character. Cheating death is easy like Aubrey Plaza with Agatha. They don't got the knowledge, so fuck the test and the passenger. Check the facts, but like afterwards, Arab voters are mad at us? Who'd have thought? Go and get a job on insurgent control like a surgeon. Surprises, no elections, a virgin inside your October. It's like this whole design's a commercial. You thinking you Stark if you Elon, but you really just Urkel. You fuck it up. Check. Putting up straw mans, fucking up y'all plans till your stand got a small stand. Thinking there's some chance like it's Humphrey before Nam. Thinking it's all gas, you remember there's one fan. So you a big fan when you try to destroy plans. Fuck up the whole brand like the cinema score jam. Fuck up the whole ad on the back of your whole scam. Fuck up the car crash like a Doherty phone plan. Bust the McLaren, the rookie season, compare it. And it's back for your diary, the 90s ain't gonna share it. A couple weeks until election, guess we all gotta bear it. Like Dick Cheney whenever we thinking we want him there, well I'm get him gone. Too soon. Never again. Fuck off, Dick. Foreign policy dipshit. That's right. That's right. Look at this fade. Look at that fade. Also, ignore the fact that I had to shave my beard off because I accidentally cut too close and the clip guard didn't work. So I had to shave the whole thing off because it was bad and now it looks all patchy. How the turntable. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please shatter that like button like a centuries-old being fighting a witch. They probably had a thing with this one time and then lets them go, only to have some extreme romantic or sensual tension that you would subscribe and hit the bell to, only to see week after week if they are a cosmic entity or a manifestation of something that you've known all along. And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. Bro, Agatha All Along is really surprising me. Really good show. But listen, we got a fucking yap session today. But also, before we get started, I just want to let everybody know I got to do a reaction and cover the debate from last week. You can find that in the description below. But look, I'd love to do more live shows in addition to the deep dives that I already do. So if you guys can, let me know what kind of stuff that you like seeing from me in the comments. Got a lot of ideas. But since it's October, let's start off with everybody's favorite series of October surprises that are not getting as much of a surprise as they should get. Jack Smith's filing on Trump. On Wednesday, Jack Smith's 165-page filing against Donald Trump for his role in January 6th was unsealed by a federal judge. Within those pages were some massive revelations to Trump's conduct on that day, and some damning evidence I feel like not a lot of people are actually sharing. One example was a Trump advisor said that Trump would declare himself the winner even if he wasn't, to a group of Trump supporters. Quote unquote, that doesn't mean he's the winner, he's just going to say he's the winner. Okay. Another one of the stories, a campaign employee on the Trump campaign was told about a batch of votes in Detroit that heavily favored Biden, and the employee said, find a reason, give me options to file litigation. And when someone said, hey, that's going to cause unrest, they said, make them riot, do it. Bruh. But the section getting the biggest coverage as of now is the section regarding Mike Pence and the bunch of people who wanted to, you know. So while Trump supporters were attacking the Capitol on January 6th and Pence was taken to a secure location, an aide told Trump of the incident and Trump was like, so what? Oh yeah? God, Mike, you're so fucking dramatic, right? People storming the Capitol because, you know, me. Obviously, this is after days of Trump trying to get Pence to overturn the election in his favor, undemocratically, obviously, and Pence refusing. And there's plenty more in the briefing about how Trump's staff had to cajole him to finally tell people to stay peaceful in that situation. so fucking bad. It looks so bad. And again, it also kind of feels that Trump does not understand how bad January 6th does look to most swing voters. Kind of like how Harris doesn't understand how that baked-in ceasefire line is doing. It's not doing well. It's not going well. Even J.D. Vance backed on it and refused to out and out say that Trump lost the election in 2020 when pressed by Walz during their debate. And even though quite a lot of people felt that J.D. Vance may have edged out Walz overall in the debate, that moment has remained a sticking point far beyond Walz's gaffes about China and other things. And listen, I understand quite a few people try to beat over the head January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. But the thing is, a majority of Americans, including a lot of swing voters, view January 6th as a bad fucking thing. It's one of the chief reasons Trump is being disqualified by quite a lot of undecided voters. It's their chief reason for it. And look, turning to the broader election, October has been a wild fucking month, and it's only like 4 or 5 days in. Helene has ravaged a large amount of North Carolina and Florida, and the devastation is absolutely horrific. But people are trying to build a Katrina-like mismanagement story when there really isn't one. FEMA is obviously stretched and trying to make things work even with slashed funding. That being said, saying it's like Katrina feels like you don't understand how fucking bad and the magnitude of mismanagement that happened during Hurricane Katrina.
In many ways, more profoundly devastating is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Please call.
In the past few days.
And obviously Helene is devastating, and there is a ton of damage to survey and deal with. And Harris recently made a comment about $750 going to victims that has been taken out of context. Many people saying, oh, just $750 going to victims instead of stuff to rebuild their homes. Just to let everybody know, the $750 is for incidental spending outside of rebuilding people's livelihood, guys. It's per diem for an immediate emergency. For groceries and the like, obviously they will need more money in the future, and there needs to be a sustained effort to help a lot of these people get back on their feet with the amount of devastation that's happened. Obviously, there are other horrific stories like workers in a plastic factory who were told not to leave and ended up drowning. Helene has been terrible, and listen, I'll link to some things down below where you can donate and possibly help victims out in their time of need. But also in terms of Harris has been also campaigning with Liz Cheney, which is, you know, a choice. I've heard a lot from friends and progressives feeling that their votes are being ignored as Harris tries to court Republicans. Also, what demographic is like, fucking Dick Cheney, all right? But I will also say, looking at the polling and how close the race is, shaving off numbers might make a little bit of sense. Also, this is a very different race than 2016. This is not necessarily what Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton did not go to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. She didn't really like fucking focus on it. But I can also understand like why really Dick Cheney? Dick Cheney. But here's what I will say, and I just want to let everybody know. This is October, and everybody and their moms who work in the media really fucking want an October surprise. The job numbers came out on Friday, and for days I was reading headlines like, the job numbers are coming out on Friday. This could be terrible. What if the job numbers for Biden tank Kamala Harris's campaign and she'll have to start a cooking show or something? Oh my goodness. And the jobs report was apparently fucking incredible, and unemployment was falling, and people are like, will this tank Trump's campaign? Is he on his knees begging for help and supper? What about Helene? What about shut the fuck up? Listen, a hurricane, an insurrection, and the bombing of innocent civilians shouldn't be horse race polling stories, but here we are. Obviously, the election is important. Obviously, optics are important, but the way these things are being reported, everything is a fucking October surprise. Like, the thirst is palpable. Even what should be an October surprise, like the legal investigation saying one candidate was ambivalent about the danger to his vice president during an insurrection he fomented, is not as much of an October surprise. And again, I get it, it's optics, I live in this world, but these are manufactured optics for headlines to get clicks, right? It's not like there's a juicy story. It's like, let's add juice to this story. This is like beyond or impossible meat for stories. There's no red meat on this. And everyone is going crazy. Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted out, they can control the weather. What the fuck? That's a fucking SNL joke, okay? Democrats have weather machines. The fuck are we talking about? Please, and I urge you, wherever you are, as a person, take everything you hear this month with a grain of salt. And I'm talking about the horse race. Obviously, Trump's actions are horrific. Obviously, the hurricane is terrible, and it is natural to wonder how this is going to affect your candidates. But I'm saying in the media narratives of these really serious, important stories, focus on what the stories are telling you when people are in need. Don't focus on the horse race. The media is designed to freak you the fuck out. Everybody's on 10 right now, and it's going to be for a little bit. And if you are looking for what will be the October surprise this year, okay? What's gonna be the big reveal, like a fucking Smash Brothers character, all right? And if you wanna know, listen, if you see hundreds of stories that people are making out to be the biggest thing ever, it's not the October surprise. When you see one story being covered by hundreds, that's the biggest thing ever, and that is the October surprise. But please, during this month, I urge you, care about what you need to care about, but decompress and try not to get swept up in all of the fucking election culture war. Democrats do not have a weather machine, and if you want to encourage rationality, try to talk about the issues at hand and what we can do as people and as a culture to try to make sure we help others, specifically with insurrections, with innocent people being bombed, and with the horrific devastation of Helene. That being said, let me know what you think in the comments. Now let's move on to some lighter news, some entertainment news here. The Joker sequel, Megalopolis, and the Wild Robot. Oh, I got a lot of thoughts. 2024 has been a very exciting and weird time for movies. After the writer's strike, and yes, I know people are still recovering, the industry is going through a lot, some people are trying to find work in a very tough time. Even with that being said, it feels like we are getting a lot of really great projects, a lot of creative, interesting ideas put into the fray. So let's start with Joker Folie Adieu. Widely anticipated as the sequel to Todd Phillips' Joker, which reimagined the Joker in this weird homage to Scorsese and Taxi Driver and the King of Comedy, also with a lot of notes about mental health with an award-winning performance by Joaquin Phoenix. That being said, there were some criticisms leveled against the film of having an audience of people who reveled more in violence than the message about mental health and the disregard for it by society at large. But the sequel was hotly anticipated as this big, high-concept project. Oh man, it's shot in IMAX. Oh man, Lady Gaga is Harley Quinn. It'll be this huge concept exploring the Joker in this different light. It's gonna be great, right? Right? So the film is not doing well. And it's not just tanking with critics, it's tanking with everyone. Joker Folie Adieu received a whopping half-a-star review from PostTrack, which tracks audience reactions after the film. It's a pretty decent polling firm along with CinemaScore. Only 23% of the audience that saw Joker would recommend another person to see it. For context, Madam Web got 1.5 stars, Morbius got 2.5 stars. A half a fucking star. So obviously go watch Morbius if you're in for a good time. I'm kidding. And listen, the issue for audiences this time around isn't the fact that it's a musical. By the way, it's a musical if you didn't know. It's that the film largely doesn't commit to being a musical. At times it feels like the film is embarrassed that it is a musical or that it exists at all. At times the whole thing feels so half-baked and kind of like embarrassed that people are even watching it. But that's the other big criticism for Joker. It feels like Todd Phillips made a movie that says fuck you for liking the original. Kind of ashamed at the praise it originally got. And again, sure, many people like the original film for the wrong reasons. But that wasn't everybody. A large majority of people just enjoyed the performances and the Scorsese references and Phoenix's fucking acting. The biggest issue I've seen people have is the ending. So very quickly, spoiler alert for Joker Folie Adieu if you haven't seen it. The movie ends with Arthur, who's Phoenix's character, saying that he doesn't want to be the Joker during this big court scene. Harley Quinn rejects him because she says that he isn't the Joker anymore. She was in love with the Joker persona, not Arthur Fleck. By the way, they do Harley Quinn dirty in this movie. If you're a fan of Harley Quinn and Batman the Animated Series, they fuck it up. So Arthur is listening to this joke, and then at the punchline, the inmate just stabs the shit out of him, just shanks him a bunch of fucking times, and then Arthur stands there, eventually falls to the ground and bleeds out while this asylum inmate is laughing, and then the inmate starts to carve a Glasgow smile into his face, a la the real Joker. So that's the actual Joker, and Arthur is not. which is a pretty enormous fuck you for even watching our film kind of ending, or a cop-out, or both. Granted, if you don't read the comics and Batman lore recently, there's been like this theory that there are multiple Jokers now, and you know, there are 3 different types of Jokers who do different things in different areas. I don't know if that's been retconned or whatever the fuck, but even so, this is a dog shit ending. Like, why am I watching not the Joker in a movie called Joker? Was the Doogie Howser like, oh, it was all a dream, whoa, none of it mattered? But this is dog shit either way, and it feels like an insult to people who even like comic book movies. I mean, Todd Phillips is on record like kind of dismissively saying like, oh, it's all these assholes will watch nowadays, I can't make anything. Spoilers over. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest fumbles I've seen in like a long time, and it seems like a bad word of mouth may give this Joker sequel a Marvels-like bombing at the box office. So yeah, probably the worst bomb in recent memory, am I right? Am I right? Oh wait, somehow, Francis Ford Coppola's long in development movie, Megalopolis, that took decades to make, self-funded for over $100 million with fucking crazy all-star cast, Adam Driver, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, Jon Voight. Why the fuck is Jon Voight here? Natalie Emmanuel, Lawrence Fishburne, Chloe Fineman, Dustin Hoffman, is fucking worse. This movie is a fucking mess. It is so over the top. I did see it. It's so over the top. It is so film student pretentious in the worst ways.
1 year of medical school entitles you to plow through the riches of my Emersonian mind?
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes. You find me cruel, selfish, and unfeeling? I am. I work without caring what happens to either of us. So go back to the club, back to the club, back to the club.
And it has a bevy of controversy about how it was made, like every fucking Coppola film at this point, right? Honestly, Francis, it's not the producers. It's you. It's been enough time. It's been enough movies. You're kind of crazy, bro. So look, the film is like a new retelling of The Fall of Rome, and everybody is at a fucking 100 in terms of melodrama, and I get it, right? Like, I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to make this old school style of filmmaking and this very high, like, intense form of acting. Like, after watching, I read the plot synopsis on Wikipedia, and like, on paper, it looks like, oh, this is interesting. On paper, it's still a massive clusterfuck when you see it. And my take, and I'll get to something hopeful in a minute, I promise, right? Like, do you remember that period of time where we got movies like Challengers and everyone was like, oh, the era of Marvel is over. True cinema has arrived. Like all those elitist, like film student bro assholes. This is the era of film student bro assholes is over. Clear movie making has arrived. Megalopolis made like $7 million. It is one of the biggest box office bombs in history. Both of these films are from incredibly talented directors who are just assholes sometimes to people who aren't as film bro-y as them. And look, I love some of their other work. Todd Phillips' Due Date is incredible. The Hangover is incredible. The Godfather, of course, Francis Ford Coppola, Apocalypse Now, but also Hangover Part 3 and Jack and Megalopolis. But look, if you're tired of pretentious film bro movies, if you're not happy with the Joker sequel, have no fear. There is hope. There is hope in this beautiful world. And that hope is The Wild Robot. Listen to me. I don't care if you don't like animation. The Wild Robot is one of the greatest animated films I have ever seen. It is better than Inside Out 2. It's better than The Iron Giant. Yeah, I fucking said it. This movie was so fucking good, and everybody was telling me it's crazy good, it's crazy good. And my expectations were here, and I was ready to be let down. Holy shit, I wasn't ready. It's not pretentious. It doesn't waste time trying to prove anything to you or trying to give you too much exposition where it's just exposition. It just starts, and within 10 seconds, we are immediately world building and defining things without having to tell you we're defining things. So much show not tell, so much growth in these characters where you don't have to say a word and it's beautiful. And the film is gorgeous. This film was made on a budget. It cost way less than Into the Spider-Verse or Inside Out 2, and man, it is fucking stunning. It is stunning. But not only that, the film is such a simple concept, done without melodrama, and so many of its moments are earned. I fucking cried in this movie. I ugly cried in this movie. I cried more in this movie than I cried in Up. Yeah, bitch. And the director, Chris Sanders, is a legend in animation. He worked on Aladdin. He worked on The Lion King. He directed Lilo and Stitch. He is the voice of Stitch. And he directed How to Train Your Dragon. By the way, if you like the flight scene in How to Train Your Dragon, motherfucker, I cannot stress how good this movie is. Also, it is the last film that DreamWorks is probably going to produce in-house, and a lot of those animators deserve love for their work. So please go out, see it. You know what? Honestly, after this, it's Sunday when I'm posting this. Go see The Wild Robot. Go see a late night showing. Go bring your friends. Have spontaneous date night. I don't give a fuck. Have a good time. You need a respite from this election? See that movie. It is hopeful. It is beautiful. I cannot recommend it enough. But yeah, crazy time in movies, in the box office, and art. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you saw any of these, how you felt about them, or you can go back to the club or whatever the fuck Adam Driver does. Last but not least, let's talk about Israel, Lebanon, Iran, and everything going on there. Over the last weeks, tensions between Israel, Lebanon, and Iran have reached more than a fever pitch. They've reached missile barrages. The latest development is that Iran sent a barrage of 20 missiles into Israel with some insane footage on social media showing them flying overhead. This comes after several incidents where Israel has escalated tensions in Lebanon and Beirut, killing Hezbollah's leader Nasrallah and other major Hezbollah higher-ups, as well as starting ground operations in Lebanon. Now, Iran says that 90% of their missiles hit their target. Israel is saying that the majority of them were intercepted. Some people even on Twitter were suggesting this is a coordinated strike for optics. And as operations in Lebanon escalate, Israel says it is planning a retaliation attack on Iran, with many fearing it could target Iran nuclear sites, which Israel has been very fucking middling about whether they're going to do or not. Biden, for all of his bluster, continues to be really angry at the escalating... Is that Susan Collins? Oh my God! Oh, Susan! Oh, are you mad that Biden is stealing your line about being concerned? Susan! Once again, we are hearing the same rhetoric from the White House that Biden is upset as Bibi continues to wanton escalate tensions with no repercussions. Now, I'm sure you've heard of it, but if you were a student to history, many people are drawing parallels to this incident to Hubert Humphrey versus Nixon, in which Nixon sabotaged the peace talks Johnson had put in place for Vietnam to swing the election against Johnson's vice president, who was Hubert Humphrey. Many people feel the exact same thing is happening, as Netanyahu continues to escalate tensions and entrench more power because he sees Trump as a better ally for him. And many feel that Trump has asked Netanyahu to escalate the war to help the Biden administration look worse and Harris take the impact. It puts them in a bad position, especially with the data coming out about swing voters who they are desperately trying to woo over in one of the closest elections in modern history. That being said, clearly, Netanyahu is trying to escalate for more power and hurt Harris in the election, and Biden is handling it poorly. Netanyahu knows the Biden administration is in a tough spot. New polling shows the electoral disadvantage of going against Israel from polling a few days ago, showing a starkly different picture than was presented back in July when a majority of people opposed the Israeli escalation. Netanyahu is also doing this to entrench his own power so he doesn't get thrown out because he is deeply unpopular, but polls show him doing good in the Israeli elections. But even still, with the lack of any distinct foreign policy consequences for Israel, like an arms embargo, at a certain point, it's not about the polling, it's about looking like you follow somebody else's drumbeats. Somebody who directly opposes your existence in your office. Bibi is definitely not Biden's friend here. All of this is more innocent civilians die, more hostages are not freed, and the situation perpetuates. And as for my take, I'm just gonna let you know right off the bat, I am exhausted. It is exhausting talking about this, especially as a Muslim, because I want to let you know that I am getting flack from everywhere, right? I am constantly asked to condemn Hamas and Hezbollah, and also if I report on this, but I don't report on it in the perfect, correct way with specific language on every single thing, I am seen as not anti-genocide as everyone else. You see what I'm saying? Like if I call it a genocide in one sentence, but then I say a conflict or a situation in another, I get dinged by comments who are saying, oh, you're trying to erase what's actually going on. Like, what the fuck? Or it said I'm undermining Harris's election and I don't care about the threat to democracy if I even mention it at all. All of this is so fucking infuriating. And one thing I want to bring to task with this is that as much as the elected leaders that we have play a role in this, the conversations around this whole situation also have a significant impact. A good example is Ta-Nehisi Coates and his press tour for his new book. Ta-Nehisi Coates has been touring his new book, The Message, for a few days now, and he's been facing a lot of interviews that strawman very reasonable observations and problems that he sees with what is going on in Israel from people who conflate criticism of a government with criticism of religion. And I understand the feeling. I promise you, I understand that feeling and where it's coming from. But listen to me. Criticism of Israel is not criticism of Judaism. It is a criticism of the government and the party that holds it, just like criticism of Iran isn't criticism of Muslims, but of the people in power who also hurt their citizens. America is still an incredibly powerful player in the world. What happens here affects everyone globally, and the discourse and conversations around our elections have consequences globally. Election optics, election rhetoric, the way people talk about other countries, the way people view intersectionality have very, very, very real effects in a way where social media fervor and a few comments can turn into danger for Haitian immigrants and chance of war and destruction for countries with innocent people in them. And a big reason of why we are in this mess is we did not have a nuanced conversation around this conflict. We shut down conversation around it at all points. And now the entire region is destabilized, and the people trying to find a reasonable solution may have electoral penalties for speaking out because we didn't do enough to let people reasonably talk about these issues. We just wanted an ally in the region and strawmanned every reasonable idea, like we did in the war in Iraq. And I'll leave you with two final thoughts. One, I think it is reasonable to criticize Israel's response to Lebanon and the way they're doing things, and also not praise Iran. Iran is not acting out of wanting safety for Gaza. They are acting out of self-interest, and they have also killed and hurt several of their own civilians in the past for the pursuit of power. Just because Lex Luthor helps Superman fight Brainiac doesn't mean you elect him president. Oh, what the fuck? What the? I'm sure that'll end well. It doesn't. And secondly, and if we're having reasonable discussions, Ta-Nehisi Coates sat down with Jon Stewart to have a discussion about the book, and it was profound.
I'm raised in, obviously, cultural Jewish tradition, and I imagine, you know, if you were to feel like people in the name of your people did some things that you found objectionable, it hits you different.
Yeah. No, it does. It does. And it's not a complete parallel, but that's why in that chapter I wanted to talk a little bit about Liberia, for instance. You know what I mean? And just the idea. I get it, the appeal of, hey, we're going to have a state of our own. We're going to get away from these people that did, you know, X, Y, and Z for us. We will have safety there. And yet then you find yourself enacting, you know, systems that, if not are the same or similar, are at least, you know, morally deeply problematic.
Right. And having to justify them through either threat or the situation or you don't understand.
Yeah.
And what I'm wondering is that the story in a condensed form of all of us? Can we progress outside of that?
I hope you watch that whole thing. I'll link to it below. But listen, I hope that we have discussions like that where we look forward to solutions, because listen, after this current horror in the Middle East is over, it's not done. We're still going to have more things that come up. We're still going to have more problems that erupt from that region, and we're still going to have injustices happen. And if we don't have a healthy way to discuss some of the worst things happening in the world without turning on each other, if we don't have a way to process with one another and change the culture to a more empathetic one, we'll be in a much, much bigger series of problems. And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize. I forgot to record an ending to the show. This is the ending. This is like last minute. But go check out Let 'Em Cook. Go check out our last episode of Freestyle and News. We'll be back next week and we'll have some news on the Spotify soon. Anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go!